Hey Lisa,
Hi,
how are
how
you?
are you?
Good.
Good. I'm loving your posts.
Thank you.
They're
Thank you. Thank
looking
you.
good.
Thank you.
You guys doing well?
Yeah, hanging in there.
Good. I'm going to turn this little speaker on, turn it off. We expect a few people on here, I guess.
Oh yeah, Frank's teaching a class. You just
Yeah,
don't.
it's today. It's not necessarily about the whole lawsuit and buyer brokerage today, is it?
I don't think so, but it may come up. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. Well, they've had office meetings here, and then the attorney for the Board of Realtors is presenting, and then NAR has something that's Zoom in a couple of days here. So definitely
Yeah.
staying informed on all of that.
Oh yeah. I know Frank's he did covered a lot of it in last Wednesday's class, and we have something coming up in a couple weeks too. Or yeah, a couple weeks too. But
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I'm between what you guys are doing and what they're doing back here. I feel like I'm getting all the information I need to get. It's just we're
Awesome.
still gonna do business. We're just gonna do it a little bit differently.
Yep. Awesome.
The way I look at it. So
Happening,
I
guys.
guess oh, hi. Hi,
It's
Frank.
good to see everybody on here. All right, we're going to get started. We have a great video today. Let's play the video and get this party started, and then we'll chat about it after.
Hi, this is Brian. Welcome back to another episode of Philosopher's Notes TV. Today, another great book, Relentless by Tim Grover. Relentless, subtitle From Good to Great to Unstoppable. Tim Grover, as you may know, was Michael Jordan's trainer and mental toughness coach. He also worked with guys like Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, hundreds of elite athletes. This book is his recipe for becoming unstoppable, for becoming relentlessly great. Quick context, 1989, Michael Jordan hadn't won a championship yet. He was getting pushed around by the Detroit Pistons, the bad boys, and he wanted to get physically stronger. Now, at the same time, Tim Grover was a trainer in Chicago who had been trying to get a job working with the team, the Bulls, the Chicago Bulls. Reaching out to the staff, got no response. So he said, you know what, I'm just going to reach out straight to Jordan. Wound up getting a meeting with him, and Jordan gave him 30 days to prove his plan, whether or not it worked, right? 15 years later, Grover worked with him throughout his career. Before his first championship, throughout everything he did, Tim Grover was the guy behind the scenes as both the trainer and the mental toughness coach. Again, this book is about what he learned and what he taught and teaches his elite athletes. The book kind of reminded me of 12 Rules for Life. Same type of intensity, in your face, shoulder more responsibility. What are you here to do? Whatever you dream of, which we'll talk about in our fifth big idea, whatever dreams you have for your life, that in your quiet moments when you're rested, you're inspired, you're optimistic, and you know you can do, that's what you're here to do. Go do it relentlessly, right? So anyway, that's the theme of the book. Philosopher's Note, bunch of my favorite big ideas, 5 of them here. Let's start at the top. Good to great to unstoppable. Tim has a fun way to break that down. He says, if you're good, he calls those people a cooler. If you're great, you're a closer. If you are unstoppable, you're what he calls a cleaner. A closer will show up and they'll be able to close out games, but a cleaner, the unstoppable person, shows up moment to moment to moment with a relentless obsession to be their absolute best. Right? The first thing we need to do is we need to move past this whole meh, I'm good enough, which is exactly what we talked about in Chasing Excellence. Ben Bergeron, right? Ultimate, or one of the best CrossFit Games coaches. What does he teach his champions? 12 character traits. The first one, commitment. You have to move past the meh, I'm good enough. Most people feel the work required to push that big boulder up the mountain of greatness, and they say, whatever, meh, I'm good enough. And Grover, all these great teachers. Primary point is that can't be good enough. You need to get curious about what greatness looks like. And then he says, continue to evolve into what are you capable of? Move from one level to the next relentlessly. And when I looked up the word relentless in the dictionary, right, one of the words used to define relentless is incessant, right? So the relentless heat of the desert, right? Incessant. If you look at the etymology of the word incessant, it literally means without ceasing, right? In Latin, without cessation, without stopping, ceaseless. What's interesting is my coach, Phil Stutz, that's one of the words he uses most often in our work together, one-on-one. He says we need to have a ceaseless immersion in the process of, to use my words, actualization. To use his words, you're ceaselessly fighting part X, that part of you that wants to pull you down from your ultimate potential. And you need to relentlessly battle that if you want to experience your ultimate potential. So that is our first idea. Moving from good to great to unstoppable, you got to be willing to walk away from the whole meh, good enough, and relentlessly commit. Which leads us to our second big idea here. Before we get there, though, context. The book is organized around 13 principles. He calls them relentless. Tim calls them relentless 13, right? Two funny things about that. One, he came up with 13 of them because he doesn't believe in luck. He believes in hard, relentless work, not luck. And the second funny thing is, it's not, his principles aren't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They're number one. His point being, they're all essential. If you want to move beyond greatness to being unstoppable, these are the principles you need to embrace. So anyway, one of the next ones, we're skipping one I talk about in the note, which is do the work. Work harder than everyone else around you, which we'll talk about a little bit in a different context in a moment. But for now, we'll talk about pressure. He says to his athletes, pressure. We want to move toward pressure. He says this whole idea that stress is bad is wrong. We need that stress in order to be energized, to be our absolute best self. We got to feed on it. And science says the same thing. Kelly McGonigal, The Upside of Stress, she says, and we discuss in those notes, that how you perceive your stress will literally dictate how you physiologically respond to that stress. You can have either a threat response or a challenge response. If you have a threat response, that means that you think of stress and you say, oh man, that's killing me. Well, guess what? Your physiology will reflect that belief. But if you look at the same exact stress differently and you say, you know what? This is forcing me to be my absolute best self, right? No pressure, no diamond style. This stress, this pressure is what I need to actualize my potential. Then you don't have a threat response. You have what's called a challenge response, which has a totally different physiological makeup than your threat response. Knowing this, we need to, again, as we talk about all the time, we need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. There's you, there's your comfort zone, right? Inside that comfort zone, it feels what? Comfortable. It's awesome. By definition, how does it feel the moment you leave your comfort zone, even if it's just a little bit outside? Well, by definition, being outside your comfort zone is, of course, uncomfortable, right? But Grover and all great teachers tell us you better get really comfortable. If you're serious about tapping into your potential, get really comfortable playing right here, being uncomfortable, right? And so you need to say pressure. Rather than saying stop, I feel stress, you say go. Adam Grant says that in Originals, right? My coach again, Phil Stutz, his thing is a mantra, bring it on. Pain sets me free, that discomfort. That's where my infinite potential exists. Therefore, I want to reverse my desire. I don't want to curl up in a ball and wish life was easy. I want to wish for the strength to deal with more pressure. Again, no pressure, no diamonds. We did a +1 on that based on Stephen Kotler's wisdom from The Rise of Superman. When I asked him his #1 piece of advice, if you want to become the super you, he said, no pressure, no diamonds. Pressure. It can bust pipes, Grover tells us, but it also can make diamonds. We want to get really good in dealing with that as well as we can. Third big idea, which will be important as we play outside of our comfort zone, what happens? We make mistakes. Things don't work out according to our plan all the time, obviously, right? So as we've discussed in that context, it's a mistake, no big deal. You don't start a film, scene one, action. Oh, cool, we're done. Hour and a half later, we've got everything we needed, one cut. It's not how it works. One scene might have 100 takes. It's a mistake. You get back and you get at it. So in this context, Grover says, look, you say, I'm all in. I'm going for it, and I might be wrong. It might not work, and that's fine. If that's the deal, then I'll adjust, and I'll come up with a new plan, and I'm going to be fine. He says, I don't even recognize failure. Yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'll make a lot more mistakes, but whatever. It's just data with the right mindset, right? And Seth Godin, in the Icarus Deception, he says the most confident thing you can say is, we're going to go for this. This is my vision of what I want to create, and it might not work. It takes a lot of confidence to say, and it might not work, right? You're simultaneously all in, and you're not attached to the outcome. You're committed to learning, getting better, evolving relentlessly. That's that idea. Oh, and in this context, so mistakes, failures, etc. It's amusing to me that the world's leading, not amusing, but awesomely interesting to me, that the world's leading researcher on the science of the growth mindset, Carol Dweck out of Stanford, she quotes Michael Jordan's Nike ad to make her point. Right? She says that Jordan gets it. In his Nike ad, as you may know, and if you haven't watched it, go watch it. Nike, Jordan, fail. Right? Jordan says, look, he's missed 9,000. He says, I've missed over 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost over 300 games. Right? I've been given the game-winning shot 26 times and I've missed. I've missed it 26 times. People trust me with the game-winning shot. I failed. He says, I failed over and over and over again, and that's why I succeed. Again, Stanford researcher uses that as a textbook case study on the growth mindset. And she also says that when he missed those shots, you can bet, she says, he went back and practiced it 100 times. And you know what? He practiced it with Tim Grover, or at least chatted about it. They got strong about it, and they alchemized it, and they got better, knowing that you can only achieve greatness if you're willing to fail or make mistakes again and again and again and again. But if you have a problem with making mistakes, you can have a problem with admitting you're making mistakes. Never go for it. Never have a shot at being great or unstoppable. Fourth big idea is connected to the last one. So let's just say it was after the game. Jordan missed the game-winning shot, right? It doesn't matter whether he made it or he missed it. Tim Grover would come up to him and say the same exact thing he says after every game. 5, 6, or 7, he would say. Are we going to get together at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., or 7 a.m. tomorrow morning? Didn't matter. Win, lose, sore, tired, didn't matter. 5, 6, or 7. Jordan would give him an answer, and Grover would be at his door at that time, ready to train again, while everybody else is still sleeping. Right? So he was following up on that. Carol Dweck missed a shot. He's going to go practice it ruthlessly, incessantly, relentlessly. In this context, too, I'm thinking of Jerry Rice and Michael Jordan. So in our notes on Jerry Rice's autobiography called Go Long, I talk about the fact that Jordan and Jerry Rice, Jordan's arguably the greatest NBA player ever. Jerry Rice, arguably the greatest NFL player ever. Right? They were born within 5 months of each other, and they have a lot in common, including this. Their work ethics are almost identical, just relentlessly intense in everything that they did, right? So, little example, Jerry Rice sets the all-time NFL receiving record one Sunday afternoon, right? Congratulations, Jerry. You now have caught more touchdowns as a receiver than any other receiver in history. What does Jerry do that night and the next morning? He does what he did every night and every morning. He replayed the game in his mind, went to bed, got up early, showed up at the field, was busting it, working out incredibly hard before everybody else even got out of bed. That's what Jerry Rice did after he set the NFL receiving record. And Grover says, isn't it interesting, using Jordan as the case study, that the most talented guy, the most successful guy, is also the one who works the hardest. Isn't that interesting? Which makes me think of grit, right? So grit, science of grit. We got Carol Dweck, Then we have Angela Duckworth talking about the science of grit. What does she tell us? She tells us that talent is important, but it's only one variable. You need to run it through an equation. Here's her grit equation. She says talent, you start with that, but then you times it by effort, right? And then you get skill. So talent is your general starting point, right? So you have more talent in some things than I do. I might have some more in different areas than you. Jordan, Rice, all these different people have a different latent potential, right, in their talent. Angela defines it as the speed with which you can pick up new skills, right? So you have a certain natural capacity. That's important. We don't want to ignore that. But that's not it, obviously. You can see a lot of people that have a lot of talent that never made anything of it. They never achieved anything. Why? Well, Angela would tell us because they didn't put in effort. So talent times effort equals skill. But that's not the end of the story. She then says you take that skill, you put in more effort, and then you get achievement. And the important thing to notice here, Duckworth tells us, is effort counts twice. Effort shows up twice in that achievement equation. All right, it's people who say, oh, I just had a lot of talent. Look, if Jerry Rice and Michael Jordan weren't the hardest workers ever in their sports, there's no way they would be the greatest ever. The two needed to go together, and they squeezed out every ounce of their potential via their hard work. So the question for us is, what are your talents? What can you do, and what do you love to do, and what do you want to spend your life doing? And how can you put in the requisite amount of effort so we can see what you're capable of? Again, relentlessly showing up, not being satisfied with meh, good enough, and going out and putting in effort, remembering that it counts twice. Which leads us to our final big idea, turning your dreams into reality. So in the note, I share the very last words of the book. And I always love the very last words of the book because you know that the author put a lot of time into a book, which is why I read books and not blog posts. I want to see the most crystallized, well thought out thoughts of an individual author. So this is the best that Tim Grover's come up with over decades of work, right? And those last words in the book are going to be the most poignant. That's kind of when he says, look, everything I've learned, this is it, boom, right here. So I like to pull those out and talk about them in the note. In this context, paraphrasing, the basic idea was, Tim said, look, I'm telling you what I tell my daughter, right? Because I believe this is the truth. That whatever dreams you have, whatever vision you have for your life in those quiet moments, when you're feeling most inspired and optimistic and hopeful, that's what you're capable of. Then you have the voice that comes in and tells you why you can't do it. But ignore that for a moment and think about what you would do if you weren't afraid. Pause for a moment now or after you watch this and spend a minute, literally a minute, 2 minutes. Make a quick list. 10 things, 11 things, champions do more. 11 things that you would do if you had absolutely no fear. If you were guaranteed to succeed, what would you do? And he says those fantasies aren't fantasies. That's what you're here to do. The question is, can you believe it? Can you stop thinking about it and doubting yourself long enough to go get to work and work relentlessly on it, remembering that effort counts twice, that you're going to need to go through a lot of mistakes and failures in order to deal with the pressure that comes with dreaming big dreams, right? And getting to a point where you move from good to great to unstoppable. There's only one way to get there. That is relentlessly. So there you go. Quick look. If you enjoy this, I think you'll enjoy the book. And most importantly, what idea jumped out and landed? How can you make it a more applied part of your life? You ready to go do that dreaming and then make it a reality through your relentless work? Get on that and make today another awesome day. See you.
What do you guys think? I got a lot of really great ideas out of this, and I read the book about, I think I read it in 2016 or 17. And it just resonated with me because I'm a huge Kobe Bryant fan. And when I found out the way this guy got Michael Jordan and everything, it just really resonated with me. And the book meant a lot. So I still have, I think it's in my office still. But what jumped out to everybody? What was something that you saw in here that resonated with you? Anybody? Yes.
For me, it was relentless because I've been relentlessly chasing this for 20 years.
Mhm.
This is going to be kind of steps and things.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? I like the first part where he talks about good, great to unstoppable. So I deal with a lot of agents that have not sold anything. Like they've not sold anything or they're coming back into real estate. I have one guy who has a whole bunch of celebrities in his contact list. And for some reason, something happened and he got out of the business and now he's coming back. He's got these major names in his contact list. I could say him and everybody would know exactly who these people are. And he's sitting in front of me when I was bringing him to the office. I was going, no way. This is crazy. How did you get out of real estate with all of these people? And I think we struggle as an industry with how much we know versus how much the customer knows. And so the one thing to go from good to great to unstoppable, in my opinion, it's like you have to be an authority on what you're doing. And the only person that can prove that you're an authority is you. And the way you become an authority is that you have to know and read as much as you possibly can to be massively educated versus the consumer. And so the NAR settlement is a very good conversation about this because there are so many videos with agents talking to the world about the NAR settlement, and I have not found one that is accurate. Every media outlet is inaccurate, and every agent that's talking about it is inaccurate. And it frustrates me because you as an agent doing a video to the world is not going to have a client call you, go, oh my God, I loved your video. Thank you for educating me. Can you come to my house? Has that ever happened to you, Tammy?
No, I was just thinking, oh, it would.
Yeah, it'd be cool, right? But the way you take this NAR settlement and you use it to your advantage is that you educate yourself on it at a super crazy high level, which I believe I have. I've consumed so much information about this in such a short amount of time that I know all the misnomer things that are being said out there, and I know all the things that are very accurate. And there was a lot to read, there was a lot to consume. But what I've done is I've tried to position myself to make myself an authority. And then if you want to get business from this, the best way you can do it, instead of trying to tell the world about what's going on, you have to connect with people. The way people will use you because they know you, like you, and trust you is if you connect with them. So my strategy is like, you have to call everybody you know and say, hey, there's been a lot of news out there with the NAR settlement. I have done extensive research on it and I understand how this works. If you ever have a question, please feel free to reach out to me and contact me. I would love to talk to you about it. But you don't do that in an email. You don't do that in a text message. You don't do that in a Facebook post. You don't do that in a YouTube video. You do that with a phone call, one-on-one to connect with the person because there is so much misinformation out there. If I hear one more agent saying that 6% is going away, I'm going to literally rip out my hair.
Right.
Yes.
What is, because I know both of us have been doing
Yep.
so much research, we're like on
Yeah.
overload, and then we go to Facebook and we're like, agent. What is your response when a client, potential customer, because what they're not doing is telling the consumer what the purpose of the lawsuit was in the first place.
Yeah.
Really, and that's really where the conversation needs to start, in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
What is your response when they say, what was that lawsuit about? Like, how do we put it, what is your best answer as far as putting it into consumer terms, if that's even possible?
Yeah. So if somebody asked me that, my answer would be, this is a super easy conversation. It's lack of disclosure in all parties. The agents fail to disclose how the contract worked, and then the failure for the consumer to read the contract when they said they read the contract by signing the contract. And so because there was a tremendous lack of communication, people felt they were wrong and a lawsuit ensues. And so it's lack of disclosure. So disclosure.
That's a great answer.
And so it's just like, and it's very easy to make things complicated. We in the real estate industry try to make things way more complicated than they are. Our job is to find somebody who wants to sell a house and sell it to somebody who wants to buy a house. It's really it. We manage relationships. So when it comes to going from good to great to unstoppable, you have to be an authority. And the way you become an authority is you learn. You consume as much information as you possibly can. Because like, let's say you're 18 years old, you're brand new in real estate, you've never sold a house. The biggest concern, and I have agents like that have joined us, and their fear is that I'm 18 years old and I've never sold a house. Well, the way you get beyond that is that you show your value, that you know things better than everybody else. So like you're lacking knowledge because you're young and you haven't done anything. So the only thing you can do is increase how much you know. So when somebody asks you a question, bam, you know it, and you're aggressive and you're relentless and you do all this stuff. And then what happens is if you've never sold anything and you present yourself as being massively knowledgeable, super energetic and aggressive, somebody's gonna be like, I really want to work with that person. That person knows their shit. Like if you're a young person in today's world and you know your shit, people are gonna want to work with you. Because there's a massive amount of young people out there that are like doing crazy things. And that's because of the amount of knowledge they have. So learning, I think, is the number one thing you can do right now, especially with what's going on in the world. Huh?
Are you telling Riley, are you listening now?
Because this is the thing, like for you, a perfect example is that I could probably sit down with you for 2 hours and give you a tremendous amount of information and then take a veteran agent and put you both in a room and ask you a question about something and you'd smoke that guy. And then if somebody, and you had a focus group looking in on you, they'd be like, well, yeah, the guy's older, but he didn't know nothing, like she knew everything.
Yeah, the other great thing about that too, guys, regardless if you're new or just kind of getting back into it, is if you're so knowledgeable, and Frank is absolutely right, that we as agents know so much more than the consumer, they're never going to ask you if you're new. They won't. And
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest fears of a new agent. They're gonna go, oh, they're gonna ask me for my numbers, they're gonna ask me for this. But if you know what you're talking about, that question never comes up.
Well, if you know what you're talking about, they're never gonna wanna ask you because they're just gonna assume that'd be rude if I asked because this person clearly knows their stuff.
Exactly.
And being younger, you're going to be like, wow, I wanna give that person a shot. Like it would feel weird not to use somebody that knows their shit, right? And going with a guy just because he's an old guy. Because that's what's happening in real estate. People have been in the business 25 years. Because I cannot tell you how many times, I know Tracy's dealt with this, that I get an agent on the other line, like, I've been in the business for 25 years. I'm like, yeah, but you're still dumb. Like you still don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, I'm going off. The NAR settlement thing has got me going sideways. But the second part you talked about is the pressure part. We deal with this every day in the real estate industry, and a lot of times the pressure we're dealing with is our lack of effort to move forward. Like we're scared to move forward. We have a fear. And the no luck versus work, I don't think luck exists. I think luck depends on what we do for ourselves and the amount of effort that we take. The pressure part with growth, pressure and growth and muscle and like all of these things coincide with each other. Like if you want to live longer than everybody else, what's the number one thing you should do? Okay, so what? Exercise, but there's something specific that you can do to make your, not necessarily. How could you live longer than everybody else?
Positive mind.
It's part of it, but the number one thing physically and medically that's proven to make you live longer is your muscle mass. If you increase your lean muscle mass and you keep your muscles strong, your body's gonna live longer. And so my question is what's your business muscle? Because if I want to live longer, I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to lift weights every day. I'm going to eat moderately healthy, but I'm going to make sure that I have strong muscles. Like I want to be the oldest and strongest dude in the gym. Like that's my end goal. Like I want people to look at me and go, damn, that dude is old and he is strong. Like that's my life on what I'm trying to do. But for business, what's your business muscle? How are you growing your business muscle? That is because there's people right now that their business muscle is like atrophy. It's done. They're basically waiting to get out of the business because they have no business muscle. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how to talk to a buyer. They don't know how to talk to a seller, and they are basically going to wither away and die. So your business muscle is going back to the learning part and learning how to talk to these people. Like she asked me point blank right here, how would you say this? Bam, and that's not because like I'm a superstar. That's because I've read and educated myself so much that it's just easy to have a conversation. I could literally go out and do a buyer presentation right now and have the conversation right now and get paid by a buyer for this, and it hasn't even taken effect yet. But that's only because I've educated. I'm not super talented and I'm not super skillful. I've just put in the effort. And my point with all of this is that like, none of you are different than me. Like, we're all the same. Like, and most likely, I would say some of you, or if not all of you, are probably more talented and skillful than I am. I've just learned to outwork people because my entire life, I cannot think of a time I've ever been given anything. Like everything I've ever had to do in my life, I've had to work for. I've gone through tribulations, I've gone through stress and all these crazy things. So you have to realize that if you want to get to wherever you're not at, you have to do something different today. And that's your growth. You're growing and the muscle. And when you have pressure, like what's associated with all of that stuff? Growing muscle and pressure. Pain. You're gonna feel pain. It's gonna suck. There's parts of it gonna suck. It's not gonna be fun. You're gonna wake up and be like, I don't want to do this crap anymore. And it may be the job you have right now. I don't want to do this crap anymore. So what are you gonna do on the times that you don't have the job or you don't have something else that's gonna get you to your next thing? And I think it was the last coaching thing I did. It's like, stop trying to go after 20 clients this year and go get one. You get one, like the average commission is like $25,000. Like, I think $20 an hour for a full-time job is roughly somewhere around $40,000 a year. That's like, and that's gross, that's before taxes. 2 sales is like 50. So it's like, if you put the amount of effort into an 8-hour job versus getting 1 or 2 sales, like what does that look like? Most agents, and when I say most, I'm like 90% of agents don't put in that much effort. They don't put an 8-hour a day effort into their job. And a lot of them are making hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's agents that I'm like, how do you even make money? Like I'll have a conversation with an agent. I'm like, what? Like, and then people are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but because it's the effort. This is the part I really love, the mistake. And then it comes back to the Kobe Bryant. I mean, does everybody know the all-time leader for missed shots in the NBA? All-time leader, we know who that is. Kobe Bryant. He's missed more shots than everybody in the history of the NBA. That's a lot of people. But why did he miss so many shots? He took a lot of shots. So are you missing 100% of your shots? So I think right now a lot of people are missing 100% of their shots because they're not taking them. And who was it? We were talking about you. We're talking about you door knocking.
Right.
And you had a fear of door knocking. Right?
Still do.
So you're missing 100% of your shots, right? So Kobe Bryant missed so many, but this is the funny thing is that nobody talks about his missed shots except for people like me. Because he has so many other records and he's considered one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Jordan's the greatest, let's get that clear. Then Kobe Bryant's like right there, but he's only considered the greatest because he's taken all those shots and he's missed them. Nobody talks about the missed ones, they talk about the great ones. So how many shots are you missing by just not taking the shot? You're like some people aren't even on the court. So you have to get on the court and you have to take the shot, knock on the door. If anything, take them a cake. Saying, hey, neighbor, I have the house for sale next door. Here's a cake. Welcome to the neighborhood. Like, I mean, be creative. So, I mean, what would you said it was a $10 million house next door?
Right, they just bought it.
Did you sell your house, by the way, or no?
No,
Have you yet? Is it close? No, okay. It will, it's coming. Coming. But I mean, a $10 million sale, like, would that be cool for you?
of course, yes.
So what's stopping you from knocking on the door?
I know that the next door just bought the house for $11 million.
So I don't remember the statistic, but it was something crazy, like 60 or 70% of all people who bought homes were not happy.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, I know Tracy's on here and we had a client, I can't remember how the client contacted us or we got a lead or something. And this guy had a house and he's just like, we're getting ready to come out and meet him and we're going to sell the house. And he's like, I'm not going to sell. We're like, okay. And I think normally most people would be like, okay, that guy's not going to sell, move on. Well, Tracy followed up with him, follow up. Even though he said, I don't want to sell, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. And I think he called either today or yesterday, and he's like, I want to sell now. I'm ready to go. And it's just the consistency of that communication. You have to take your shots. And I think that that's really, really super important. The talent versus skill is that he said effort counts twice. So that's effort squared. And this, let's take that off the table. Because the effort and the talent and the skill really don't mean anything, because skill can be learned. Like you can learn how to read a contract. You can have a skill of presenting a contract. So I can tell you, go read this contract and then present it to me 100 times. If you presented a contract 100 times, do you think you'd be better at it than the first time you did it? So I remember when I first started in real estate, I was scared to death of the contract. It was probably the thing that scared the holy crap out of me more than anything else. I was doing open houses, and I was sitting open houses half praying that nobody wanted to write an offer, because I was like, I don't know what to do. It's a contract. Like the fact that it was a contract freaked me out. So what I did is, and nobody told me how to do that. I have no clue what I did. I think it was fear. I got like 10 contracts. I'm thinking if somebody comes in, I need to know how to write this contract. So I started making up scenarios in my head, and I would write a contract at the table. And when I was, so this is really funny because I had no clue I did this, is I'm writing the RPA contract as if a buyer came in and wanted to buy the house. Well, I'd have buyers coming in. And so buyers would come in and see me writing a contract and think I was writing a contract for the house, which I was, but it wasn't a real buyer. And it created scarcity, ended up finding a client for it. In addition, the broker for the Keller Williams office that was brand new and nobody even knew who Keller Williams was at the time. This was the first office in the San Fernando Valley. Walked in and saw me writing a contract on the kitchen counter and was like, wow, this guy's had his license for like a minute. He's already writing offers and this and that. And he ended up getting a meeting with him, and I ended up getting recruited to Keller Williams. But I ended up just writing contracts over and over and over and over. The funny thing is that Tracy does all the contracts now, and I don't even know if I could find the contract. But I just put together my skill, and then the effort of moving forward was what actually changed everything. But the missed shot thing, you're going to be wrong. And you can't let the fact that you're going to be wrong stop you from moving forward. And that's what we all do. We all are afraid to be wrong. So we just don't move forward. And this, I mean, this happens with me. It happens with everybody. You have to realize that it's not a mistake, it's a mistake. You're gonna have to do multiple takes. Like if you talk to Kobe Bryant, like he would never take away all those missed shots because nobody talks about those. He gets all the accolades for all the other things he did. The funny part is that we could probably go out and find NBA players that were on the court longer than Kobe Bryant and did not take shots as much as he did. And I remember he got flack, and if you were in LA at the time, he got a lot of flack for taking more shots than everybody else on the team. He was called the ball hog. And somebody addressed the issue at a conference with him, and he straight out said it. He said, the reason you're saying that to me is because you don't see what I see with these guys in practice. And there's no way I'm handing the winning shot off to these guys if they have that kind of work ethic. That's not verbatim, that's kind of hyperbole there, but it's basically what he said. He was like, I know what they're doing and I know my work ethic, and so I'm taking the shot. And so people looked at him differently after that, but you have to realize you're gonna be wrong. And you're actually being wrong by not making the decision, taking the shot, moving forward and doing things. What else does everybody have? I can talk forever. Forever. Sandy's like, please stop talking. Sandy hears me talk every day. What do you guys thoughts?
I like the idea of how I said work harder than everyone else around you. And
Yep.
like, while you can look at everybody else, like that can be overwhelming, just the idea of going the extra mile for yourself.
Yep.
That's how you can just kind of outwork yourself, or just, not necessarily looking at what other people are doing, but just the ways that you can go the extra mile will make you sharper and
Yeah.
better.
Absolutely. So like act like act like a movie reality show crew, like following you around videotaping you all day. Like, what would you show to the world if the world was watching you 24/7? I mean, what would you want them to say? Man, this person's like ate up and messed up and like they don't know what they're doing, they're clueless. Like, would you want that to be portrayed, or would you want, wow, this person is really on their game, they're gonna crush it. Like they're growing, like they are the hero of their own movie, they're the hero of their story. Like, what do you want portrayed? And if you have a mindset to where you're thinking about like, instead of I'm worried about what everybody thinks, it's like, no, I'm gonna show you who I really am. And I argue with people that like, that's the Kardashians. They don't really do anything, but when they put cameras on them, they said, this is who I am. And they showed this portrayal of something that was like, not who they were, but who they wanted everybody to see. And that's who they became. And so it's like having that mindset of like, stop worrying about what everybody thinks and start putting the effort into you and what you're doing on a daily basis. And then when people walk into a room and you're putting that extra effort forward, they're gonna see, well, there's something different about this one, right? Like that person's, there's more energy, there's more questions, there's more something to this person versus everybody in a room. If you really think about it, all of us on a daily basis, we kind of adapt to our surroundings based on based on the fact that we're worried about what everybody else thinks, right? What we wear, what we say, how we sit, what we like, all these little things that we do. If we just take that off the counter and say, I'm just going to perform based on my ability to outwork myself. And like, I got to get XYZ done today, let's get it done. Like, let's make it happen. And when you start doing that and you start operating outside of the box of what everybody else wants, then that's when you start to stand out. And like clients, your clients will notice it. And the one thing I can tell you that will help you stand out to your clients, and this is going to sound super weird and basic, it stands out to your clients when you actually call them. Because everybody you know is in somebody realtor's database or in their contacts on their phone, and most agents don't call their people. They don't. They don't call to check on them. So they'll call and say, oh yeah, I have a property that just listed around the corner, or do you know anybody who wants to buy or sell? Stop doing that. Your initial answer is going to be no, thank you, move on, because it's like when you walk into a store, somebody goes, hey, can I help you? What do you say?
Depends.
I'm just looking. I'm just looking, right? But then when you need keys to the dressing room, it's whoever has the keys. So when you call your people, you got to just, where are they at in the process of buying and selling? How are they doing? Do they think you care? If they think you care, you are one step closer to getting a deal. If they think you just want a sale, I would say you're one step further away. Anybody on Zoom have any thoughts or questions or ideas of what I said? Anybody? Donati? Norma? Mitra? Got a few people on here. All right, no questions on it. What else do you guys have? So I can talk all day. Anything? So 12 rules for life. I think I read this. I'm not sure who the author was, but I wrote that down there. It sounds like a really good book. No pressure, no diamonds. It's actually a bold rule. So if you guys have been to bold, this is a bold law. No pressure, no diamonds. Expectations. Don't let your expectations kill your business, which is I expect to do X, Y, Z. Like remove expectations from people, remove expectations from, if you remove your expectations, you will never be disappointed. Ever, 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 ever. Pressure and growth. It comes with pain, and you can have two pains in life. You can have the pain of regret, or you can have the pain of growth. So which one? I like the pain of growth because I'm always better on the other side. And so regret is something you can't change. So think about that. The story he told on the front end. So this is what I thought was fascinating. Tim Grover. Does anybody know who Tim Grover is? It's a great book. He is probably the most sought after trainer in the world. And so at one point, he was working with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan made him sign a contract to where he was not allowed to work with anybody else until Michael Jordan was done with him. And so he worked with Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant afterward. But the whole reason that he got Michael Jordan is because he tried to contact Michael Jordan and he couldn't get to Michael Jordan. So he's like, F it. I'm just going to go directly to Michael Jordan. He literally went directly to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan gave him like 15 to 20 minutes to sit down in front of him. And he had a conversation because he went in as an authority because he knew so much about it. And he said, this is how I'm going to help you level up your game. And Michael Jordan had a bunch of yes men around him that would do whatever Michael wanted to do. And they would acquiesce to Michael and all these different things. And Tim was not that way. Tim was like, no, this is how you do it. And he stood up to Michael, but he went after the $10 million listing and knocked on the door. Because who is, and the guy was not, nobody knew who he was. Like he had nothing special about him. He was a struggling personal trainer that was trying to figure out his way. Do you guys see how weird that is? And how he just changed his entire life and changed Michael Jordan's entire life? He did so many amazing things with these athletes. I would absolutely recommend reading the book because it's a small book, it's a quick read, but there's a ton of information. So it only takes one door knock, one phone call to actually get to the next level when it comes to your business. But you just gotta pick up the phone. Thoughts, questions before we play the last video? For once, twice. Yes.
Can you at one point teach us the Think and Grow Rich one? Like, quickly?
I will take a look at that. This guy is really, really good at what he does. He takes a few books that I like and he combines them into like one thing where he has like 5 of these person's books, and I don't think it's as valuable. Like there's the Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, one of my favorite books of all time, and it's a great story, but the way he delivers it is a little weird. So let me see if I can find Think and Grow Rich. That is one of my top 5 books of all time, but I will take a look at that. Awesome. All right, let's play the last video and get out of here. Let's sell some houses.
Still too.
Sell 2. There we go.
You might be smarter, your family might come from privilege, your daddy might own a company, but you will not outwork me.
This top spot is number 1. That's mine. Because not one of you can outwield me. You may have been born with more genetic prowess than I have, but you cannot out-determine me. You can't outwield me. You can't outwant me. You can't outwork me. You can't out-desire me.
The bigger your dream is, the harder the grind. Some of you in this room, you might have small beginnings. You might not have a lot of money. You might not have a lot of resources, but there's no excuse. And I need you to understand that the bigger your dream is, the earlier you're gonna have to get up. The longer you're gonna have to stay up. The more effort you're gonna have to put in. You know how hard I worked to get here? I put in too many hours. I sweat too much blood, too much tears. I worked hard to get here. Didn't nobody give me this. I didn't grow up with wealth. Didn't nobody pay me. I worked for this. Sweat, blood, tears. I earn every dime I get. I work for this. You will not outwork me because your height has nothing to do with my work ethic. Your face has nothing to do with my work ethic. Your 2-parent background has nothing to do with my work ethic. You will not outwork me.
Every day is a new day. Every moment is a new moment. So now you got to go out and show them that I'm a different creature. Now. Because I'm pissed off for greatness. Because if you ain't pissed off for greatness, that means you're okay with being mediocre. There ain't no man in here okay with being just basic.
And I dare you to exhaust yourself. I dare you to leave every single thing on the field, one season, everything, walk off exhausted.
Wins and losses come a dime a dozen. But effort, nobody can judge effort. Because effort is between you and you. Effort ain't got nothing to do with nobody else.
I want you to know when you dream your dream that there are other people who are dreaming the exact same dream. When you say to yourself, this is what I want to accomplish, you're not the only person that wants to accomplish it. And now I ask you this question, what do you do when 1,000 other people want exactly what you want? What do you do when you're not the only one that wants to make $1 million in your company? You're not the only one that wants to be a CEO. What if you're not the only one that wants what you want? What if there are thousands of other people who want what you want? You have to outwork them. You gotta outgrind them. You gotta get up earlier. You gotta stay up later. You gotta execute, and you gotta go from 70 to 120.
Remember, you didn't come this far to come this far. So let's go sell some houses.
We have a question.
Yes, what's the question?
Any new regulations for door knocking conventions?
So the answer I think is no, not that I'm aware of, but I'm not sure what that means. So, is that from Donati?
It's from Rosa.
Oh, okay, yeah, no,
I know Beverly Hills you cannot do.
yeah, certain areas you can or cannot, but, a lot of that's because they're gated.
No, my area is post office, so it's not part of Beverly Hills, it's LA
Okay,
city. I can.
you can door knock there?
Beverly Hills post office you can.
Yeah,
But actual Beverly Hills is a different area, you cannot.
so you can go door to door.
No.
Actually, door knocks, this woman ran after me with her cooking utensils.
Well, that's
And
fun.
they're never coming back here.
Oh my God.
That's a great story.
But I went back the next day.
There you go. That's right. You bring your own pots and pans, like.
Take them with you.
All right, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions, but, April 2nd from 1 to 3 p.m., there's a NAR settlement meeting for the entire region of Keller Williams.